So I thought about it long and hard, and here's how I would have handled the Game of Thrones finale. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
Okay, so I'm itching to get into how I would have done the Game of Thrones finale, and also, break down how I'm planning to do, because I did promise that I would do a rewrite for this, and I'll explain how that's going to work in a minute. But first, let me give you a quick reminder that Super Diary World is officially a part of the show's podcast network, which means that you can find it in the iHeartRadio app. Just type in The Show Presents, click on Super Diary World, or type in The Show Presents Super Diary World, whichever's easiest for you. You can also find it in the Rock 1053 website. Just go to rock1053.com, click on the podcast tab. You'll find it right there. Or I update a daily article in the Follow Along with the Show page. Or if you still can't find it, go to my Instagram, @DarioTheShow. There's a link in my bio right there. As of right now, the show's still officially on SoundCloud and iTunes. Just type in Super Diary World Podcast. You'll find it right there. We are slowly transitioning out of it. Again, we're just waiting for the approval of The Show Presents Super Diary World to face out of Super Diary World Podcast. I know it's confusing, but I will keep you updated on every single thing that happens throughout. Okay? I want to make it as easy for you as possible. But, okay. The things we love destroy us every time, lad. Remember that. So, Game of Thrones ended last weekend, and this, honestly, I gotta say, I enjoyed this Sunday. This Sunday was great. I felt free. I didn't have to, have felt the need to rush after work to just go and see an episode. It felt free. It felt liberating. I'm very happy that it's over. I'm not happy how it ended, but I'm happy that it existed. I'm happy that it happened. And I had a lot of people reach out and ask me a whole bunch of things, because a lot of people have a lot of questions about Game of Thrones. And honestly, I'm honored that they asked me about it. That means that they think my opinions are not that stupid. So always appreciate everybody reaching out. I had a bunch of questions, and I had a lot of people ask me, dude, please give us a different ending. Please, that ending sucked. That ending for Game of Thrones was horrible. Please, what would be your ending? How would you change it? Like, I even had my friend Karen reach out and be like, I'm too lazy to do this, so I want you to think of an ending for me. So screw you, Karen. I'm not doing this for you, okay? I'm doing it for me. And also for all the people who've asked. This is not for you. I need to specify that this one's not for you. Anyway, so I've been thinking long and hard about this. Like, how would I do it? What's the best way to do this? Because for me, I would like to go back all the way to each story. Because there's so many storylines here. And I would like to go to where each one jumped the shark. Because there's a point in each story where they just completely jump the shark. An example of that would be Sansa and Littlefinger's story, when Littlefinger basically sells Sansa to the Boltons for no reason. That's when that storyline jumped the shark. It made no sense. But that's all the way back to season 4. With Jon, is him being brought back to life after a haircut. Made no freaking sense. Like that's at the end of season 5. So there's a different point in each story, and the easy thing for me, honestly, would just be, okay, how everything started in season 8 and just go from there, because all I have to do is just add things, because nothing happened, really. You just have to make characters do stuff. You just add stuff, and it could end the exact same way, everybody dying in the exact same way, but we just saw more things happen. We just saw things being set up better. But that seems a little bit too easy. I like making things complicated for myself. And so I figured, okay, if I go back to the point of each story where they jump the shark, first I need to set the scene, right? So next Monday, I'm going to set the scene for each character so that you kind of know what is happening with each storyline. Because this is a hard show to follow. Unless you read the books, this is a hard show to follow. So I'd be setting the stage, and I'd take it from there. I don't think I can do it in a day, so this might be like a series thing, which in a way is kind of cool, because I was a little bit burnt out, but I'm not ready to let the story go yet. I've been waiting for years for the next book, honestly, and so I don't mind spending time in this world because I haven't gotten closure yet. I got closure from the show. I'm free from the show. I'm done with that. But I'm not free of the story yet. So it's fine. I can see myself enjoying this for a little bit. So some of the rules, I need to set up rules for this because otherwise it'll get out of hand super quickly. So one of the big rules that I set up is I cannot add any more characters that did not appear on the show. So I can only use show characters. Nobody else. There's a ton and more characters that are still in the books that haven't appeared on the show. And so I can't use any of those. I'm only going to use characters that appeared on the show. To me, that seems fair, and it seems like the best way to not complicate things further. Because, again, this is a hard show to follow. So I feel like this will make things easier for everybody, starting with myself. Now, for those of you who want like a quick, easy ending, just a rewrite of the last episode, all right, fine. I'll do it. I'll do it quick and it'll be easy. But to clarify, this will not be the ending of my rewrite, okay? Clarifying, will not be the ending of the rewrite. Anyway, starting from the point where Jon is about to kill Daenerys, like I said, I would have upped the stakes there. I would have made it harder for Jon to just kill her. I would have built this up way more. But I would have made it more, made Daenerys way more tempting to Jon at that point. One of the ways I would have built it up, by the way, is by making it so that Jon could have never have rejected her up to that point. So if he's never been able to reject her, and here she's upping the stakes, it would have been harder. Anyway, so she tells him more things like, we can rule together, we can be together, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And then she drops the she's pregnant bomb, which I remember, I know, I said that I did not want Daenerys to be pregnant. But I said this on the last Game of Thrones podcast. This show has a way of making me want everything I said that I didn't want, and it makes me hate getting every single thing that I wanted and I got. I'll go through those in a minute. The 3 things that I didn't want and 3 things that I did want for this season. I'll go through those again in a minute. But okay, so Daenerys says that she's pregnant, and so the stakes have been upped for Jon. It makes it super harder. It makes it super painful, but he kills her anyway, right? Stabs her. Yeah, right there, right in the belly. So not only is he killing the love of his life, he's killing his future son, daughter, whatever. Doesn't matter. The potential prince that was promised. Whatever, right? Anyway, so Jon is there holding her, crying his eyes out, and that's when Drogon shows up, and he's like, you son of a bitch, you killed my mother, in dragon tongue, and Jon kind of embraces his faith, embraces his upcoming death, because he doesn't care about anything anymore. And so, I mean, he just killed the love of his life and his baby, but whatever. Anyway, and so Drogon gathers there to burn him alive, but he pivots at the last second and he melts down the throne. Now, Jon's all like, what the fuck? I thought, he was going to kill me. Then he looks closely, and Drogon's eyes are white, which means that he has been taken over by Bran. So Bran takes over Drogon and melts down the throne, then flies away. And then we get a quick shot of Bran sitting in front of the Godswood in Winterfell, starting to kind of smoke and getting a little catatonic. So Sansa is there worried about him. So back in King's Landing, Jon realizes that it's Bran, and he yells at him as he flies away. Bran! You should have let him kill me, Bran! Bran, come back, please! Because at this point, Jon really doesn't have anything to live for anymore. This is the second time that the woman he loves dies in his arms. The first one being Ygritte, who, by the way, may or may not have been pregnant as well. So it kind of sucks. And actually, you know what? They should have made some parallels to Ygritte's death with Daenerys now that I think about it. Daenerys could have said something like, do you remember those waterfalls? We should have stayed at those waterfalls. Or even dropping a freaking, out of nowhere, dropping a you-know-nothing Jon Snow would have been great. Something. They could have made some parallel there. But I guess nobody remembers Ygritte. Anyway, the point is, Jon, ready to die, right? So, at this moment, Grey Worm walks in with a couple of Unsullied, sees Jon with Daenerys bloodied in his arms, and at the same time, he looks out the window, and Drogon starts setting the Dothraki and Unsullied armings on fire. So, Grey Worm's super confused, super angry, looks outside in rage, looks at Daenerys in rage, and like, what did you do? So, they lunge at Jon in rage, who, again, at this point, is embracing his fate. Jon is ready to die. So it's kind of just there waiting, and out of nowhere, Arya shows up. She uses the element of surprise and takes one of the Unsullied out and starts fighting with the other. This causes Jon to react because even though he might not care about himself, he does care about Arya. So he gets up, grabs his sword, goes and helps her, and so it's one Unsullied and Grey Worm versus Jon and Arya. The fight goes on as you see the city burning in the background once again, ashes upon ashes. And the fight goes back and forth, but at one point, Arya gets the advantage over the Unsullied by throwing ashes in his face, and takes advantage of the opening, walks up close, and stabs him, right? So the Unsullied at this point knows that he's kind of dead, so he grabs her while she's there. She got too close. He grabs her by the neck and starts choking her, to kill her. And Arya desperately starts stabbing him repeatedly to make sure that he dies before he kills her. And out of nowhere, Grey Worm's spear pops out of the Unsullied's chest and hits Arya. So basically what happened is Grey Worm, standing behind the Unsullied, stabs the Unsullied through his back. The spear goes all the way through his body and through Arya's. So he gets them both in one single strike, right? This, well, causes Arya to fall down, impaled. Grey Worm loses his spear. Jon kind of loses it, like, no, Arya! This causes Grey Worm to say something snarky, like, you'll lose all of them too, or whatever. You know, Grey Worm was not much for words. And so Jon attacks him. Grey Worm flounders a little, trying to get a weapon. He recovers the spear that was lost by the first Unsullied. They start fighting. Grey Worm kind of has range, but Jon has a Valyrian steel weapon. He cuts his stupid wooden spear in half, and so ends up taking the fight and killing Grey Worm. I'm not going to choreograph the whole fucking thing, okay? So, yeah, he wins the fight. So, Grey Worm's dead. He rushes over to Arya, who's dying as well, and she says also something snarky, like, I don't know, he got me with a pointy end. And Jon's trying to, stop the bleeding. Then Bran returns with Drogon. He sees what's happening, and Jon sees that Drogon is kind of starting to take over. Like, Bran is losing control. So he grabs Arya and starts running out of there. Drogon regains control, kind of sees that they're running away, shoots fire at them, but they barely manage to get out of range and around the corner. So Drogon just looks at his mother again, screams in pain, sets the rest of the castle on fire, grabs her, and flies off. So after that, we have Jon, running away from the flames. He gets out of the castle, reaches the courtyard, and that's where Arya dies. So Arya can tell him something like, you know what you have to do, or whatever. It's okay, Jon, it's okay. You know what you have to do. Anyway, from there, Jon screams in pain, and we fade to black. Okay? Fair enough. So that's how we've done that scene. And next comes the dumbest council in history, right? So the way I would have redone that is, first off, Grey Worm's dead, so Tyrion's no longer a prisoner. So there's a representative from each of the 7 kingdoms. Which, by the way, it's really weird, but it's more than 7 kingdoms. It was originally called the 7 Kingdoms because Dorne wasn't considered a part of it. And at the time of the conquest, there was a king of the Isles and the rivers. So the Riverlands and the Iron Islands were ruled by the same king. So that it was considered one kingdom. Anyway, so if you take those out of consideration, if you separate all the kingdoms, here's the count. The North, the Vale, the Iron Islands, the Riverlands, the Western Lands, the Crown Lands, the Reach, Dorne, and the Stormlands. So for those of you keeping score, those are 9 kingdoms. And so you have from the Riverlands, you would get Edmure. From the North, you get Sansa. From the Western Lands, you get Tyrion. From the Vale, you get Sweet Robin. From the Stormlands, you get Gendry. From Dorne, you get the new nameless Prince of Dorne. From the Reach, you get Samwell Tarly, which is weird, but the Tarleys were officially given the title of Warden of the South, so I guess it's still theirs. From the Iron Islands, you get Yara, and from the Crown's Lands, you get Jon, a.k.a. Aegon Targaryen, but nobody's really sure if he's going to show up because he's been kind of out of it lately. Anyway, so those are the 9 that are going to be there to butt heads, right? So Jon doesn't show up, and the main opposition is Yara and the Prince of Dorne, because Yara, as she stated on the show, is like, hey, I pledged my allegiance to somebody else, and you fucking killed her. What the fuck? The Prince of Dorne, similar thing. So the one that has the upper hand here, clearly, is Sansa, politically. Because I think Dorne still has a bigger army, and, well, the Iron Islanders have a fleet. So I think Sansa has the upper hand politically because the representative from the Riverlands is her uncle. The representative from the Vale is her cousin. The representative from the Western Lands, technically, is her husband. And the representative from the Crown's Lands is her half-brother, now cousin. Yeah, weird. And the representative from the Reach is her half-brother / cousin's best friend. And the representative from the Stormlands is very friendly with all of them. He's like the love of her little sister's life. So she has the advantage politically because it's like 7 kingdoms against 2. And she's trying to leverage everybody into just accepting Jon. But the counter argument is, well, we've got a better army right now, and Jon is not fucking here. So in the middle of all that bickering, obviously, Jon walks in, followed by Ghost, because Ghost came back with Sansa, and he gives a big speech of how he doesn't care about anything anymore, that he's broken pretty much every vow he's ever made, that he was supposed to be the shield that guarded the realms of men, but realize that you cannot protect the realms of men from themselves because their wars cost the death of most of his friends, most of his family. It wasn't even the Night King, it was each other. So that he's done with all of it. He's too jaded. He has a dream for spring, and he's tired of death. He's tired of fire. So he wants to go to the land of ice and try to make things grow there. The winter has come, and it was bitter, and it was dark, and it was cold, and it cost him the life of not only the ones he loved the most, but of himself as well. So he's ready for spring, ready to take this second chance and try to build something instead of just destroy. And so with that, he just walks away, with Sansa yelling after him, "God damn it, Jon, you're the one with the best claim. You cannot just keep walking away from this." So Jon turns around and says, "I gave up my life, my title, my love, to give you a chance for peace. Now it's up to you to do something with it." And walks out, leaving everybody in silence, just pondering and Sansa steaming. So after a few moments, Davos finally says, because Davos was there, obviously, as a representative of Jon, he's still his wingman. Anyway, Davos says, "So what are we going to do? The man with the best claim doesn't want it, and if we break up, it'll certainly lead to war down the line." That's when Tyrion says, "I may have an idea." And everybody looks at him. We just need a good story. So you fade out from there. Next scene you get is Jon packing up stuff in his tent with Ghost there, because Ghost has to be there, of course. He's packing things up. Sansa and Sam walk in there, trying to talk a little sense into Jon. Jon just starts listing out all the people that have died. Sansa tries to explain to him that all those people died trying to give him a chance. That Bran died trying to give him one final chance. That's how we find out that Bran actually died by taking over the dragon. He ended up sacrificing himself. And so Jon is kind of starting to feel it. He's starting to feel the responsibility, the weight of all those deaths. He's trying to walk away from it, but he's trying to feel the weight. And all of a sudden, we hear bells outside. And Jon's like, "What is that?" And Sansa says, "You may not have a choice, Jon." So he walks out, and there's a sea of people. Knights, common folks, people of all kinds there. And as they see him, they're kind of in shock. They're like, "Oh my God, it's him. It's him. Is it really him? It's him. Yes, he's there. It's him. Oh my God. The resurrected, the White Wolf. He killed the queen. Oh my God. Is it really him? Oh my God. Yes. And the whisper starts getting louder and louder, and people start kneeling. Knights put their sword to the ground. They kneel and like, my lord, we're here to serve." People get on their knees and, "Please save us. My lord, save us. My lord Aegon, the White Wolf, the resurrected. My lord, please save us. Deliver 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 us." Now, Jon is confused as fuck, and he kind of turns to Sansa, and Tyrion's right there too. And Tyrion explains that Lord Varys sent out quite a few letters to everybody, informing them of Aegon Targaryen's existence and how he's the resurrected and the rightful heir. And after Daenerys was killed, and with a little help of the most influential families in Westeros, meaning the people in that council, spreading the story along and confirming it, people from far and wide wanted to go there to see and pledge allegiance to their savior. Sam also explains to Jon that these are the people who will suffer if you don't take up the crown. They've lost everything just like you, Jon. They want peace. They want to share in your dream. Become who you were meant to be. Save them. And so the people keep chanting, and finally, somewhat reluctantly, Jon takes up the mantle again, the responsibility that he'd been shaken since birth, apparently. But he finally takes up the mantle. He becomes the reluctant leader that he was always meant to be. But he does make a few changes. He's like, "King's Landing's dead. Fuck King's Landing. I don't like it here. It's too warm." So he moves the capital to Winterfell and makes Sansa his hand and charges her with running the kingdom. He's the king in name only right now. Sansa will be running things because he wants to settle things with the wildlings first, because he believes that they can achieve peace together. So he travels up to Castle Black, meets up with Tormund again, they hug, whatever, and they start planning how they're going to bring down the wall. As they start off on a range, because again, that's his pet project. He doesn't want to run the kingdom. He's the king in name only. Well, I mean, he's the king because he's the one that'll bring everybody together. But before he sits and rules, he wants to finish what he started back as Night's Watch commander. He wants to bring the wildlings into the Seven Kingdoms. He wants to expand into the land of always winter. He wants to bring peace to them too. So He travels to Winterfell, visits the tomb of Ned, Arya, and Bran. This is where we find out that Bran actually died, taking over Drogon. He died, and says his goodbyes, thanks them for everything, and decides, okay, this is where the past is buried. This is where our past mistakes, because Bran represented all of human history, right? It's time for a new beginning, and so he kind of says goodbye there. Then he travels to Castle Black, and Tormund's there, and they kind of already started to figure out what they're going to do with the wall. Jon wants to bring it down, so as they're figuring everything out, they do a few ranges north to see what the hell's happening over there. So Jon crosses with the wildlings to venture into this new country, and as he's walking out, remember the last shot of Game of Thrones, they're walking through the field, boom, Drogon stops right in front of them and roars, and everybody just kind of flips out. Jon's horse freaks out, knocks him off, runs the fuck out of there, and so it's just Jon standing there in the snow, Ghost right next to him, ready, defensive position, and Drogon just staring at him. Fire and fury and death in his eyes. So Jon grabs his balls, basically, stands up, musters his courage, and slowly starts approaching him as Drogon's growls grow louder and louder, and the fury grows louder and louder. And Jon takes off a glove, reaches out, and... So there you have it. Cliffhanger. I'm sorry to do that to you, but that's the way how George R. R. Martin would end it, kind of open, and so I kind of have to do the same. So that's how I would have done that episode alone. And they didn't give me a lot to work with, so that's how I would have made that episode a little bit more interesting. Hopefully that's enough of a morsel for you to be like, okay, well maybe Daario is not that big of an idiot. And I know that a lot of things I didn't like. Okay? I did not like that I had to do a lot of things. Unfortunately, the situation I was in kind of forced my hands, and I kind of needed to wrap things up with what they gave me. I'm sorry. I wanted to do differently. Like I said, I want to set up a whole bunch of other stuff. So, if hopefully you enjoyed that, and if that's enough for you, cool. If not, every Monday I will be doing a reset of this. I will be doing how it should have. How will I name this? I'll name it How I Would Have Done It. Yeah. Game of Thrones, How I Would Have Done It series. And I'll start next Monday. Like I said, this one was just, if you just wanted a quick ending, cool, that's it. This is what I did that D&D didn't do. I made a choice. I had to make a choice. I picked a side. I don't particularly like the side that I picked, but I had to make a choice, and I ran with it. Hopefully, it was a more satisfying final episode for you guys than what you got. I think it was, but I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts, so as always, hit me up at Daario the Show. Any comments, questions, or suggestions? I love talking all these conspiracy stuff with you guys, and you give me a lot of great ideas. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you would have done differently, because I may steal your ideas for later on, shamelessly, like I've always done. I'm kidding. No, I try to give credit when credit's due, okay? Tomorrow, there was a lot of news that happened over the weekend. A lot of trailers that were dropped, a lot of interesting news bits, and apparently gaming is now a disease? What? Yeah, I'll get into that and more tomorrow in Super Daario News. So, as always, thank you for listening, and have a great Memorial Day.